Family ignores baby's cries. Doesn't realize loyal puppy is sending them a desperate warning. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed 11 times, its resonant tones echoing through the quiet house. Robert Bennett, settled in his armchair by the window, glanced at the clock, then back to the book in his lap. The words blurred before his eyes, his mind wandering to thoughts far removed from the pages before him. He shifted in his seat, a sigh escaping his lips. The house felt unusually still this morning. Mary, his wife of 50 years, was out tending to her rose garden, her passion for those vibrant blooms a constant source of joy in their lives. But even the cheerful hues of the roses couldn't quite dispel the subtle melancholy that had settled over their home in recent months. It had been 6 months since Charlie, their beloved Labrador retriever, had passed away. The old dog, a faithful companion for over a decade, had succumbed to age, leaving a void in their lives that was proving difficult to fill. The quiet patter of paws on the hardwood floor, the happy barks that used to greet them at the door, the comforting weight of Charlie's head resting on their laps. These were the absences that ached most keenly. Robert glanced at the empty dog bed nestled by the fireplace, a familiar pang of sadness tugging at his heart. He missed the routine they had shared with Charlie, the morning walks in the park, the leisurely afternoons spent throwing a frisbee in the backyard, the evenings curled up by the fire with Charlie snoozing at their feet. He knew Mary felt the loss just as deeply, perhaps even more so. Charlie had been her constant shadow, her confidant, her furry soulmate. She still teared up whenever she came across one of Charlie's old toys or stumbled upon a forgotten tennis ball in the garden. Their daughter, Susan, had suggested they get another dog, but the thought seemed almost disloyal to Charlie's memory. Besides, Robert and Mary were getting on in years. Could they handle the demands of a young, energetic puppy? He glanced out the window, watching Mary meticulously pruning her roses. Her silver hair shimmered in the sunlight, her movements graceful despite the slight stoop in her shoulders. A wave of tenderness washed over him. He knew she missed Charlie terribly, but she never complained, always putting on a brave face for his sake. He decided to make her a cup of tea, a small gesture to brighten her day. As he shuffled towards the kitchen, a thought struck him. Perhaps Susan was right. Perhaps a new puppy, a young, vibrant spirit, was just what they needed to fill the void in their lives and bring back the joy that had been missing. He smiled to himself, a plan forming in his mind. He would surprise Mary with a puppy, a new companion to share their golden years with. He could already picture Mary's face lighting up with joy, her eyes sparkling with renewed happiness. He set about making the tea, his heart lighter than it had been in months. The prospect of bringing a new furry friend into their home filled him with a sense of anticipation and hope. He couldn't wait to see the smile on Mary's face when she met their new companion. The next morning, Robert woke with a renewed sense of purpose. He slipped out of bed quietly, careful not to disturb Mary, who was still sleeping peacefully beside him. He dressed quickly and headed out the door, a mischievous glint in his eyes. He drove to the local animal shelter, his heart pounding with anticipation. He had called ahead the previous day, inquiring about a litter of golden retriever puppies that had recently arrived. The shelter volunteer had described them as bundles of energy and love, and Robert couldn't wait to meet them. The shelter was a haven of furry friends, filled with the sounds of barking dogs and purring cats. Robert, his heart melting at the sight of so many animals in need of homes, followed the volunteer to a room where the puppies were housed. The sight that greeted him was pure joy. 5 fluffy golden retriever puppies tumbled over each other, their playful barks and wagging tails filling the room with infectious energy. Robert knelt down, his hands outstretched, and one of the puppies, a particularly adventurous female, bounded towards him, licking his hand with enthusiastic abandon. Robert was smitten. This was the one, he knew it. He spent some time playing with the puppy, marveling at her playful spirit and gentle nature. He learned that she was the runt of the litter, often overlooked by potential adopters due to her slightly smaller size. But to Robert, she was perfect. He completed the adoption paperwork, his heart swelling with happiness. He couldn't wait to introduce this little bundle of joy to Mary. He imagined the puppy curled up on Mary's lap, her soft fur bringing comfort and warmth to his wife's grieving heart. He drove home with the puppy nestled securely in a crate on the passenger seat. He stopped at a pet store on the way, picking up a cozy bed, a collar with a shiny new name tag, and a variety of toys. He named the puppy Hope, a fitting name for the spark of joy he knew she would bring into their lives. When he arrived home, Mary was still in the garden, her hands buried in the rich soil. Robert approached her cautiously, a mischievous grin spreading across his face. "Mary, my dear," he said, his voice filled with excitement. "I have a surprise for you." Mary turned, her brow furrowed in curiosity. Her eyes widened as she saw the crate in Robert's hands, a tiny golden retriever puppy peering out from within. "Robert, what is this?" she asked, her voice trembling with a mixture of surprise and disbelief. "This, my love," Robert replied, opening the crate, "is Hope. She's our new companion." Hope, sensing the excitement, bounded out of the crate and into Mary's arms. Mary gasped, her eyes filling with tears as she held the puppy close. Hope, in turn, licked Mary's face with enthusiastic affection, her tail wagging furiously. Mary looked up at Robert, her eyes shining with gratitude and love. "Oh, Robert," she whispered. "She's beautiful." "Thank you." Robert smiled, his heart overflowing with happiness. He knew he had made the right decision. Hope, with her playful spirit and unconditional love, was already weaving her magic, bringing a renewed sense of joy and purpose into their lives. The quiet ache of missing paws was slowly fading, replaced by the comforting warmth of a new furry friend. While Hope's arrival brought a renewed sense of joy to Robert and Mary, their daughter, Susan, was facing her own struggles. Motherhood, which she had envisioned as a time of blissful connection with her newborn daughter, Lily, had become a source of overwhelming anxiety and despair. Susan had always been a cheerful, optimistic person, but the past 6 months had been a blur of sleepless nights, hormonal fluctuations, and a persistent feeling of inadequacy. She loved Lily dearly, but she struggled to bond with her, often feeling disconnected and overwhelmed by the demands of motherhood. The postpartum depression, which had crept in subtly at first, had now taken a firm grip on her. She felt trapped in a cycle of exhaustion, guilt, and self-doubt. The joy she had anticipated experiencing as a new mother eluded her, replaced by a persistent sense of emptiness and despair. Her husband, Mark, was supportive and loving, but he couldn't fully understand the depths of her despair. He tried to help, taking on extra chores and offering words of encouragement, but his efforts often fell short, leaving Susan feeling even more isolated. She longed for her mother's comforting presence, for the wisdom and reassurance that only Mary could provide. She decided to visit her parents for a few days, hoping a change of scenery and the familiar comforts of home would help lift the dark cloud that had settled over her. When Susan arrived at her parents' house, a wave of relief washed over her. The familiar scent of her mother's baking, the sight of her father's smiling face, the comforting warmth of the fireplace, these were the anchors she needed in the storm of her emotions. She introduced Lily to her grandparents, her heart aching with a mixture of love and inadequacy. Lily, now 6 months old, was a beautiful baby with bright blue eyes and a captivating smile. But Susan often felt like a stranger to her own child, unable to fully connect with the tiny human she had brought into the world. Robert and Mary, sensing Susan's distress, showered her with love and support. They took turns caring for Lily, giving Susan a chance to rest and recharge. They listened patiently as she shared her struggles, offering words of encouragement and reassurance. Hope, the new puppy, was an unexpected source of comfort for Susan. The dog, with her boundless energy and infectious enthusiasm, seemed to sense Susan's sadness. She would often curl up at Susan's feet, her soft fur a comforting presence against Susan's trembling legs. One evening, as Susan sat on the porch, Watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and purple, Hope came and sat beside her, resting her head on Susan's lap. Susan, tears welling up in her eyes, stroked Hope's soft fur, finding solace in the dog's unconditional love. In that moment, surrounded by the love of her family and the comforting presence of Hope, Susan felt a glimmer of hope pierce through the darkness. Perhaps, with time and support, she could find her way back to the joy and light that had been missing from her life. As the days passed, a remarkable connection began to blossom between Lily and Hope. The baby, who had been unusually fussy and withdrawn since her birth, seemed to find solace in the puppy's presence. Hope, in turn, was drawn to Lily, her playful energy tempered by a gentle tenderness whenever she was around the infant. Mary and Robert observed this budding friendship with a mixture of wonder and relief. They had worried about Lily, her quietness and lack of responsiveness a constant source of concern. But with Hope by her side, Lily seemed to come alive. Hope would often lie beside Lily's crib, her soft whimpers and gentle licks seeming to soothe the baby. Lily, in turn, would reach out her tiny hands, grasping at Hope's fur and giggling with delight when the puppy licked her fingers. During the day, Hope would follow Lily around the house, her tail wagging excitedly whenever the baby crawled or attempted to pull herself up on furniture. Lily, captivated by Hope's playful antics, would squeal with laughter as the puppy chased her toys or rolled around on the floor, inviting her to join the fun. One afternoon, Mary placed Lily on a blanket in the living room, surrounded by her toys. Hope, as always, settled beside her, keeping a watchful eye on the baby. Lily, reaching for a colorful rattle, lost her balance and toppled over. Before Mary could even react, Hope sprang into action, nudging Lily gently with her nose and licking her face until the baby stopped crying and started giggling again. Mary, her heart swelling with emotion, watched this tender exchange. She realized that Hope was more than just a pet. She was a guardian angel, a furry protector watching over her precious granddaughter. Robert, too, was amazed by the bond between Lily and Hope. He often found them curled up together on the rug, Lily's tiny hand resting on Hope's soft fur, both of them fast asleep. The sight filled him with a sense of peace and gratitude. He recalled the day he had brought Hope home, the spark of joy he had seen in Mary's eyes. Now that spark had ignited into a flame, illuminating their lives with a renewed sense of purpose and love. Hope, with her playful spirit and gentle heart, had not only filled the void left by Charlie, but had also brought an unexpected blessing into their lives, a healing presence that was mending their daughter's wounded spirit and weaving a magical bow. And with their granddaughter. Despite the joy that Hope brought into their lives, a shadow of worry lingered in Robert and Mary's hearts. Susan, though surrounded by the love and support of her family, seemed to be sinking deeper into the clutches of postpartum depression. Her smiles were fleeting, her laughter rare. She often retreated to her room, leaving Lily in the care of her parents. She would sit by the window, staring blankly at the garden, her eyes reflecting a deep sadness that no amount of sunshine could penetrate. Robert and Mary tried to reach out to her, offering words of encouragement and gentle reassurance. They cooked her favorite meals, reminisced about happy memories, and encouraged her to join them on walks with Hope and Lily. But Susan remained distant, her responses brief, her gaze averted. One evening, as the family gathered for dinner, Susan pushed her food around her plate, her appetite gone. Mary, her concern growing, gently inquired if something was wrong. Susan, her voice barely above a whisper, confessed that she felt overwhelmed, inadequate, and disconnected from her own child. She spoke of the crushing weight of responsibility, the constant fear of failing Lily, and the overwhelming sense of loneliness that consumed her. Tears streamed down her face as she described the emptiness she felt, the inability to experience the joy and love that she knew she should be feeling for her daughter. She confessed that she sometimes felt resentful of Lily, her own child, for disrupting her life and stealing her happiness. Robert and Mary listened with heavy hearts, their own eyes welling up with tears. They understood the challenges of new parenthood, the sleepless nights, the hormonal fluctuations, the overwhelming sense of responsibility. But they had never witnessed this level of despair in their daughter, this deep sense of hopelessness that threatened to consume her. They tried to offer words of comfort, reminding Susan of her strength, her resilience, and the unconditional love that surrounded her. But their words seemed to fall on deaf ears, their reassurances unable to penetrate the thick fog of depression that enveloped her. That night, as Robert and Mary lay in bed, their sleep was troubled. They whispered to each other, their voices filled with worry and concern. They knew they had to do something to help Susan, to pull her back from the brink of despair. They decided to seek professional help, to find a therapist specializing in postpartum depression who could guide Susan through this difficult time. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but they were determined to do everything in their power to help their daughter find her way back to the light. The next morning dawned bright and clear, the sun streaming through the windows, casting a cheerful glow over the Bennett household. Robert and Mary, despite their worries about Susan, decided to make it a special day for Lily. They planned a picnic in the backyard, complete with a colorful blanket, a basket filled with delicious treats, and a collection of Lily's favorite toys. Hope, sensing the excitement, bounded around the house, her tail wagging furiously. She knew a trip to the backyard meant endless opportunities for chasing squirrels, sniffing out interesting scents, and basking in the warm sunshine. Lily, dressed in a frilly pink dress and a sun hat, gurgled happily as Mary carried her outside. Robert spread the blanket under the shade of a large oak tree, its branches providing a welcome respite from the summer heat. Hope, unable to contain her excitement, zoomed around the yard, her playful barks echoing through the air. Lily, captivated by the puppy's antics, squealed with delight, her tiny hands reaching out to grasp Hope's wagging tail. Robert and Mary watched this heartwarming scene, their hearts filled with a mixture of joy and sadness. They cherished these moments of happiness, knowing that they were precious and fleeting. They also knew that Susan, watching from the window, was unable to fully share in their joy, her spirit still shrouded in the darkness of depression. As the afternoon wore on, Mary decided to prepare some sandwiches for their picnic lunch. She left Lily on a soft blanket in the living room, within sight of the kitchen while she assembled the food. Hope, as always, remained by Lily's side, her watchful eyes never leaving the baby. Robert, engrossed in a conversation with Susan on the porch, didn't notice Mary leave the room. Susan, her gaze fixed on the garden, seemed lost in her own thoughts, her responses to her father's questions brief and distant. Suddenly, a sharp yelp from Hope pierced the air, followed by a frantic barking that sent chills down Robert's spine. He rushed into the living room, his heart pounding in his chest, a sense of dread washing over him. The sight that greeted him made his blood run cold. Lily, who had been lying peacefully on the blanket moments before, was now on the floor, her tiny body awkwardly twisted, her face contorted in pain. Hope, whimpering and licking Lily's face, seemed to be trying to comfort the distressed baby. Mary, hearing the commotion, rushed in from the kitchen, her face pale with fear. She scooped Lily into her arms, the baby's cries echoing through the house. Robert, his mind racing, dialed 911, his voice trembling as he explained the situation. Within minutes, the wail of sirens filled the air as an ambulance pulled up to the house. Paramedics rushed in, their faces grim as they assessed Lily's condition. Susan, her maternal instincts kicking in, pushed past her shock and despair, her focus solely on her injured daughter. Lily, her cries growing weaker, was carefully placed on a stretcher and carried out to the ambulance. Susan climbed in beside her, her hand clutching Lily's tiny hand, her heart filled with fear and guilt. Robert and Mary followed closely behind in their car, their minds reeling from the sudden turn of events. The day that had started with such joy and hope had now descended into a nightmare of fear and uncertainty. The harsh fluorescent lights of the emergency room seemed to amplify the anxiety that gripped the Bennett family. Lily, her tiny face pale and drawn, lay in a hospital crib, hooked up to monitors that beeped and blinked with rhythmic precision. Susan, her eyes red-rimmed from crying, sat beside her daughter, her hand gently stroking Lily's forehead. Robert and Mary paced the waiting room, their faces etched with worry. They had been informed that Lily had suffered a minor concussion from the fall, but the doctors were running further tests to rule out any other injuries. The waiting was agonizing, each tick of the clock a hammer blow against their frayed nerves. Hope, who had been allowed to accompany them to the hospital, lay quietly at Susan's feet, her head resting on her paws. The usually exuberant puppy seemed to sense the gravity of the situation, her playful energy replaced by a quiet attentiveness. After what felt like an eternity, the doctor emerged from the examination room, his expression a mixture of seriousness and reassurance. He explained that Lily's concussion was indeed minor, and she was expected to make a full recovery. However, she would need to stay overnight for observation just to be safe. Relief washed over the Bennetts, a wave of gratitude replacing the fear that had gripped them. Susan, her tears flowing freely now, leaned over and kissed Lily's forehead, whispering words of love and comfort. As the evening wore on, the hospital staff, touched by Hope's devotion to Lily, made an exception to their no-pet policy. They allowed Hope to stay in the room with Lily, recognizing the calming effect the dog had on the baby. Hope, curled up beside Lily's crib, kept a watchful vigil. Whenever Lily stirred or whimpered, Hope would lick her hand or nudge her gently, as if offering reassurance and comfort. Lily, in turn, seemed to find solace in Hope's presence, her cries subsiding whenever the puppy was near. Susan, watching this tender exchange, felt a wave of warmth spread through her. In the midst of her own despair and guilt, she saw a glimmer of light, a reminder of the resilience of the human spirit and the healing power of love. She reached down and stroked Hope's fur, her tears falling softly on the dog's head. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "Thank you for being here for her." Hope, as if understanding, licked Susan's hand, her warm, wet tongue a balm to Susan's wounded heart. In that moment, a silent pact was formed, a bond of love and loyalty that transcended species and united them in their shared concern for Lily. As the night deepened, the hospital room fell silent, the only sound the rhythmic beeping of the monitors and the soft breathing of the sleeping child and her devoted canine companion. In the midst of uncertainty and fear, Hope's presence was a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, love and loyalty could shine through. The sterile environment of the hospital, with its hushed whispers and the constant hum of medical equipment, felt like a world away from the cozy familiarity of the farmhouse. Susan, perched on a chair beside Lily's crib, felt a profound sense of displacement, as if she were an observer in her own life, watching events unfold from a distance. Lily, thankfully, was recovering well. The concussion had caused no lasting damage, and the doctors assured Susan that she would be back to her cheerful self in no time. But for Susan, the accident had triggered a deeper crisis, a reckoning with the dark emotions that had been festering within her. The guilt was a heavy weight, pressing down on her chest, stealing her breath. She replayed the events of the previous day in her mind, agonizing over the moment she had left Lily unattended on the sofa. If only she had been more attentive, more present, more engaged, this wouldn't have happened. The self-reproach was relentless, a chorus of accusations echoing in her mind. She was a terrible mother, unfit to care for her own child. She had failed Lily, failed her husband, failed her parents, failed herself. The despair that had been lurking in the shadows now took center stage, its icy grip tightening around her heart. She felt a profound sense of isolation, as if she were stranded on a deserted island, cut off from the world, unable to reach out for help. She watched Hope, curled up beside Lily's crib, her breathing slow and steady. The puppy, with her unwavering loyalty and unconditional love, seemed to possess a serenity that Susan craved. Hope had been there for Lily, protecting her, comforting her, while Susan, her own mother, had been lost in her own dark thoughts. A wave of shame washed over her. She envied Hope, envied her simple devotion, her ability to live in the moment, her unwavering love for those around her. She longed to feel that same connection, that same sense of belonging, but the walls she had built around herself were too high, too thick. As the night wore on, Susan's thoughts grew darker, more desperate. She felt a growing sense of detachment, as if she were watching herself from outside her body, a spectator in her own life. She imagined disappearing, fading away, leaving behind the burden of motherhood, the weight of expectations, the crushing guilt. But then, Lily stirred in her crib, her tiny hand reaching out, grasping for Hope's fur. Hope, awakened by the movement, licked Lily's hand, her tail wagging softly. Lily gurgled happily, her eyes fluttering open, a smile spreading across her face. The sight of her daughter, so innocent, so vulnerable, so full of life, pierced through Susan's despair. A wave of fierce protectiveness surged through her, a primal instinct to shield her child from harm, to nurture her, to love her unconditionally. In that moment, something shifted within Susan. The walls she had built around herself began to crumble, the icy grip of depression loosening its hold. She realized that she couldn't give up, couldn't abandon her daughter, couldn't succumb to the darkness that threatened to consume her. She had to fight for Lily, for herself, for her family. She had to find a way back to the light, to rediscover the joy and love that had been buried beneath the weight of her depression. She reached out and took Lily's tiny hand in hers, her tears falling softly on the baby's soft skin. "I'm here, Lily," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." Hope, sensing the shift in Susan's demeanor, nudged her hand with her wet nose, as if offering encouragement and support. Susan, her heart filled with a newfound determination, looked at her daughter and her furry companion. A glimmer of hope rekindled in her eyes. The first rays of dawn filtered through the hospital window, casting a soft glow over the room. Lily, nestled in her crib, slept peacefully, her breathing slow and even. Hope, curled up at the foot of the crib, snoozed contentedly, her tail twitching occasionally as she dreamt of chasing squirrels and butterflies. Susan, her eyes heavy but her heart lighter, watched her daughter and her furry companion. The despair that had threatened to engulf her had receded, replaced by a fragile sense of hope and a renewed determination to heal. She knew the road ahead would be challenging, but she was no longer alone. Her parents, with their unwavering love and support, were her anchors in the storm. Hope, with her unconditional love and gentle presence, was a constant source of comfort. And Lily, her precious daughter, was her inspiration, her reason to fight for a brighter future. When the doctor arrived for his morning rounds, Susan shared her struggles with him, her voice trembling at times but her gaze steady. The doctor listened patiently, his expression kind and understanding. He assured her that postpartum depression was a common and treatable condition, and he recommended a therapist specializing in maternal mental health. Susan, her heart filled with gratitude, readily agreed to seek help. She knew she couldn't do this alone, and she was ready to embrace any support that would help her reclaim her life and her connection with her daughter. Later that day, Lily was discharged from the hospital, her health fully restored. The Bennetts returned home, the atmosphere lighter, the sense of relief palpable. Robert and Mary busied themselves with preparing Lily's nursery, ensuring everything was safe and comfortable for their granddaughter. Susan, with Hope by her side, retreated to the quiet solitude of her old bedroom. She called the therapist recommended by the doctor and scheduled an appointment for the following week. As she hung up the phone, a wave of exhaustion washed over her, but it was a healthy exhaustion, the kind that follows a hard-won battle. She lay down on the bed, Hope curling up beside her. She closed her eyes, allowing the tears to flow freely, releasing the pent-up emotions that had been weighing her down. Hope, sensing her distress, licked away her tears, her warm, rough tongue a comforting balm against Susan's skin. In the days that followed, Susan began the arduous journey of healing. She attended therapy sessions, sharing her deepest fears and insecurities with a compassionate and understanding professional. She opened up to her parents, confessing the dark thoughts that had plagued her, the guilt and shame that had held her captive. Robert and Mary listened without judgment, their love and support unwavering. They shared their own experiences with parenthood, the challenges they had faced, the doubts they had overcome. They reassured Susan that she was a good mother, that her struggles were not a reflection of her character but a manifestation of a treatable condition. Hope, too, played a vital role in Susan's recovery. The puppy's playful antics brought laughter back into the house, her gentle presence a constant reminder of the simple joys in life. Susan found solace in caring for Hope, taking her for walks, playing fetch in the backyard, and sharing quiet moments of companionship. As Susan's depression began to lift, she found herself connecting with Lily in ways she had never thought possible. She delighted in Lily's gurgles and smiles, her heart swelling with love as she held her daughter close. She rediscovered the joy of motherhood, the simple pleasures of feeding, bathing, and playing with her child. The accident, though terrifying, had become a catalyst for healing, a turning point that had brought their family closer and opened their hearts to new possibilities. They had faced darkness and fear, but they had emerged stronger, more resilient, and more grateful than ever for the precious gift of love and family. The weeks that followed were a time of healing and renewal for the Bennett family. Susan, with the support of her therapist, her parents, and her furry companion, continued to make progress in her recovery from postpartum depression. The dark clouds that had shrouded her spirit gradually dissipated, replaced by a growing sense of peace and contentment. She embraced motherhood with a newfound joy, cherishing every moment with Lily. The bond between mother and daughter deepened, their connection strengthened by the shared experience of vulnerability and resilience. Lily, sensing her mother's newfound presence, responded with radiant smiles and infectious laughter, filling the house with a vibrancy that had been missing for far too long. Robert and Mary, witnessing Susan's transformation, felt their hearts swell with gratitude. They had watched their daughter struggle through the darkness, and now they saw her emerge stronger, more radiant, and more connected to her family than ever before. The Bennetts, as a family, rediscovered the simple joys of life. They spent their days exploring the nearby park, picnicking under the shade of ancient trees, and building sandcastles on the beach. They read stories together, sang silly songs, and shared quiet moments of laughter and affection. Hope, their furry companion, was an integral part of their daily adventures. She chased butterflies in the meadow, splashed in the waves at the beach, and patiently endured Lily's enthusiastic hugs and clumsy attempts to ride on her back. One evening, as the family gathered around the dinner table, a sense of warmth and contentment filled the air. Susan, her eyes sparkling with happiness, shared a story about Lily's latest antics at the park, her laughter echoing through the room. Robert, watching his daughter's radiant face, felt a surge of pride and love. He raised his glass, his voice filled with emotion. "To family," he said, "to love, to second chances, and to the furry friends who enrich our lives." Mary and Susan echoed his toast, their glasses clinking together, their smiles reflecting the deep bond that united them. Hope, sensing the celebratory mood, barked happily, her tail wagging excitedly under the table. In that moment, the Bennetts were more than just a family. They were a testament to the enduring power of love, resilience, and the healing power of companionship. They had faced challenges and overcome adversity, emerging stronger and more united than ever before. Time, once a relentless force that seemed to slip through their fingers, now flowed with a gentle rhythm, each day a precious gift to be savored. Lily, no longer a fragile infant, blossomed into a vibrant toddler, her curiosity and energy boundless. Her days were filled with exploration and discovery, her laughter echoing through the house like a joyful melody. She chased butterflies in the garden, built towers of blocks that reached for the sky, and painted masterpieces with vibrant colors that defied any recognizable form. Hope remained her faithful companion, her shadow, her partner in crime. They were an inseparable duo, their bond forged in the crucible of shared vulnerability and unwavering love. They raced through the fields, their laughter mingling with the rustling leaves and the chirping of birds. They napped together under the shade of the old oak tree, their breathing synchronized, their dreams intertwined. Susan, watching her daughter thrive, marveled at the resilience of the human spirit. Lily, who had once been so quiet and withdrawn, now radiated joy and confidence. The accident, which had once cast a shadow of fear over their lives, had become a distant memory, a reminder of the fragility of life and the preciousness of each moment. One evening, as Susan tucked Lily into bed, the little girl, her eyes sparkling with mischief, asked, "Mommy, do you remember when I fell off the sofa and Hope saved me?" Susan's heart skipped a beat. She had been hesitant to discuss the accident with Lily, fearing it might trigger traumatic memories. But Lily, with the innocence of childhood, seemed to view the incident as an adventure, a story to be recounted with a mixture of excitement and pride. Susan smiled, her heart filled with gratitude. "Yes, Lily, I remember. Hope was very brave that day, wasn't she? She barked and barked until Grandma came," Lily said, her voice filled with admiration. "She's my hero." Susan nodded, her eyes welling up with tears. "She is a hero, Lily. She saved you." Lily, sensing her mother's emotion, reached out and touched her cheek. "Don't cry, Mommy. I'm okay now. Hope and I are always okay." Susan, her heart overflowing with love, pulled Lily close, her embrace a silent promise of protection and unwavering support. In that moment, she realized that Lily's accident, though terrifying, had been a catalyst for healing and growth. It had brought their family closer, strengthened their bonds, and opened their hearts to new possibilities. It had also given them the gift of perspective, a profound appreciation for the fragility of life and the preciousness of each moment. They had learned to cherish the simple joys, to savor the laughter and love that filled their days, and to face the future with a renewed sense of hope and gratitude. The years that followed were a tapestry woven with threads of joy, laughter, and the enduring strength of family bonds. The Bennetts, their lives enriched by the presence of hope and the unwavering love they shared, embraced their golden years with grace and gratitude. Lily, now a vibrant young girl, filled their days with her infectious energy and boundless curiosity. She excelled in school, her inquisitive mind soaking up knowledge like a sponge. She joined the soccer team, her athleticism and competitive spirit shining on the field. She discovered a passion for music, her piano melodies filling the house with sweet harmonies. Hope, her faithful companion, remained by her side through every adventure. They explored the woods behind their house, their laughter echoing through the trees as they built forts and searched for hidden treasures. They curled up together on rainy afternoons, lost in the pages of their favorite books. They shared quiet moments of companionship, their bond a testament to the enduring power of friendship. Susan, her spirit fully healed, embraced her role as a mother with unwavering devotion. She nurtured Lily's passions, encouraged her dreams, and provided a safe haven of love and support. She also found fulfillment in her career as a teacher, her passion for education ignited by her own experiences with growth and resilience. Robert and Mary, their hearts overflowing with pride, watched their family flourish. They delighted in Lily's accomplishments, cherished their time with Susan, and marveled at the unwavering bond between their granddaughter and their furry companion. They continued to find joy in the simple pleasures of life, tending to their garden, sharing meals with friends and family, and taking leisurely walks with Hope through the neighborhood. They embraced their roles as grandparents, their love for Lily a constant source of warmth and light. One crisp autumn evening, as the leaves painted the landscape in hues of gold and crimson, the Bennetts gathered around the fireplace, the crackling flames casting a warm glow over their faces. Lily, curled up on the rug with Hope, recounted her day at school, her voice filled with enthusiasm. Susan, her hand resting on Lily's shoulder, listened with rapt attention, her heart swelling with love and pride. Robert and Mary, their faces etched with smiles, watched this heartwarming scene, their hearts filled with gratitude for the blessings that surrounded them. As the years passed, the Bennetts faced the inevitable challenges of aging with grace and resilience. They supported each other through health scares, celebrated milestones, and mourned the loss of loved ones. Through it all, their love for each other remained steadfast, a beacon of strength and comfort in the face of life's uncertainties. Hope, their faithful companion, aged alongside them, her once boundless energy replaced by a gentle serenity. She remained a cherished member of the family, her presence a constant source of comfort and unconditional love. When the time came for Hope to cross the Rainbow Bridge, the Bennetts mourned her passing with heavy hearts, but also with a deep sense of gratitude for the years of joy and companionship she had brought into their lives. They buried her in the backyard, under the shade of the old oak tree, her final resting place a testament to the enduring bond they had shared. The Bennetts, their lives forever touched by the love of their furry companion, continued to cherish the memories they had created, the lessons they had learned, and the legacy of love and loyalty that Hope had left behind. They faced the future with courage and grace, their hearts filled with gratitude for the gift of family, the power of resilience, and the enduring magic of the human-animal bond.